Oh,
I like that Fergus's name is on the Sophie page now. You've changed the screen a bit too early, Nash. Go back. I can just hear myself.
I mute the stream, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you mute the stream.
Okay.
Hello everybody and welcome. My name is Danurai and you are joining me for the first SoulCalibur UK does an art stream with an artist from the SoulCalibur UK community. Please welcome Carriacou, our artist for today. How are you doing today, Carrie?
Hi guys, I'm doing okay.
So, as you can see on the screen, he's going to be giving us some beautiful artwork for us to showcase to you on Twitter and during the Discord. But you'll get a first look here on Twitch. So count yourselves incredibly lucky to be the first eyes to feast on this wonderful piece of art. So Carriacou, tell us what we're going to be seeing today.
Yes, well, today I decided to make just like a fun little like comic of Maxi doing his Heaven's Guard versus Nightmare. You know how you get those reactions where they have a AGI where the person hits you from behind, but it still is GI. Basically that.
Yes.
And spoilers, I did the Nightmare already, so I'll just be painting Maxi today.
That's fair enough. Maxi's the better character anyway.
Yeah.
So today we're just going to be watching Carriacou paint, enjoy some relaxing art while I ask him a few questions, while we take some questions from the chat, while we take some comments, and just have a generally good time. This will take about 45 minutes, but if we go under or over, it doesn't matter. We're just trying to enjoy ourselves here. So Carrie, as you're starting to draw and colour in, I have a few questions for you.
Sure.
The first one is, how did you decide to get into art in the first place?
Well, it was just another hobby I decided to get into. For a while, I was into cycling, like in the 2000s, early 2010, but I kind of wanted something else to do. So what I did was in 2011, I bought a tablet, but in reality, I didn't use it much, so I sold it a year later. But back in 2014, I decided, you know what, I better give this another push. So that's when I decided to like really try and take it a bit more seriously and basically draw every day.
Wonderful. So just a little comment I'd like to make here. I assume this maxi is based on one of my old customs with the turquoise, is that correct?
Yeah. I took a screenshot of like one of your ETL matches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just based the design. Cause this was the original sketch I have here. I'm not sure if it's showing up.
Yeah,
I
we can
think
see
this
that.
is his like SoulCalibur 4 design with like the scarf and just the pants, and that was my original sketch I did. I usually sketch during lunch breaks and decide, you know what, I'll make it someone I know then. Yeah, I usually try.
Unfortunately, unfortunately, that cast has now since been thrown into the ether because my account got shot by Bamco, so I lost all of my casses.
Oh dear.
So I decided not to make another one until I can be bothered. But now I don't play Maxi anymore, right?
Sure
So
about
I'm a
that.
Maxi player. I'm a Yoshi player, sorry. So yeah, exactly. I'm gonna make a Yoshi turquoise and pink custom to rep the old ETL colors because, as I'm sure you will know by now, my team won the ETL because we're all amazing. Big shout outs to Sepius, Dom, and Silas. So, moving on to my next question. Do you have a favorite artist? And I'm talking about in general, but also just in the FGC.
The FGC, it's hard to say like who my favorite artists are. There's quite a few. Like I think my biggest inspiration is, it's hard to pronounce his name, but it's I'm not sure how you print the original Japanese pronunciation is, but it's like how I pronounce it is Range Murata. But
Oh yes, I think I am familiar. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name either, but I
yeah,
understand
but
who
it's
you mean. Yeah.
not. If you like Google his work, you realize it's not really a type of. The subject matter doesn't appeal to everyone. I'll leave it at
Of
that.
course.
And
Makes
another
sense.
one of my favorite artists, just to listen to, is an artist called Dan Warren. He's not that well known, but what I found was that I wanted like to find tutorials on how to paint digitally, and I noticed most of the tutorials were from like artists who did Magic the Gathering and so forth. So the artist Dan Warren, he used to do quite a bit of Magic cards and would describe the process and so forth of like how to paint digitally. He does a lot of like Magic, D&D, and that kind of stuff, which I'm not really into, but I don't mind like taking advice from anyone, regardless of the subject matter.
Of course, it's always good to grow and get some advice from people who are more experienced than you are. So, do you have a favorite artist, just kind of in general? You know, if we go back to the famous ones, Picasso, etc.
Caravaggio is probably my favorite, like well, you could say old master.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, just because I noticed he had a really like unique style.
Okay, and what kind of style would that be?
I mean, in terms of like when you think of like the old masters, in terms of like Da Vinci and so
Da Vinci,
forth,
that's another one.
I find to me, they all look the same. But when I saw Caravaggio's artwork, I noticed, oh, he has his own take on these like religious portraits and stuff. So usually when I go to London, even now, if I'm spending a few like days there, I try to go to the National Gallery. I haven't been like this year because COVID and all of that, but if I go, since the National Gallery is open back up, I plan to go. And for those outside the UK, the National Gallery is, I think, the biggest art gallery in the UK. Has
it's pretty big.
Has several famous artists.
Okay, so Caravaggio would be the artist that you take most of your maybe inspiration from, or you just kind of enjoy his art the most?
Yeah, I enjoy like art from like.
I think it would be hilarious if we saw a chibi nightmare from Caravaggio, but that's just me.
Yeah, I try to like take inspiration from like several types of artists, rather than like just being like anime artists. I find some artists can get into that trap where they only know since they do one type of style, they ignore every other type of style.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we have a question from Eternal Dragon in the chat. He asks, are you completely self-taught or did you do any courses?
Yeah, well, you could say I did art class in like primary school. I wouldn't count that. Yeah, completely self-taught. Although I have done one art course. Not really a course. It's basically like a video course. You know how they have a Skillshare and those types of courses that are pretty popular now.
Oh yes.
Yeah, so I basically, it's like you watch videos during your own time and so forth, and work at your own pace.
Okay, so essentially you are self-taught for 99% of your experience. Like you say, you did one online class, but you did painting and art in primary school, which I'm sure informed the artist you are today.
I don't feel so really, because as I was telling you like earlier, like in secondary school, I once, when Dragon Ball Z was still popular, I brought I did this drawing of, I think, Goku maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I brought it to class and like all my friends were like laughing at it. So obviously it wasn't that good.
Dragon Ball Z was the anime of choice for youngsters in the 90s and the 2000s. You know, would draw Goku and Vegeta with the crazy hair.
Yeah.
It was a fun time in primary school.
Yeah, I mean, quite a few people I knew did that, but those were like real art students, like who really wanted like to have a career in it.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, one of my friends who I grew up with, he actually studied it for his, like, what they call it in the Caribbean, the CXCs. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's the equivalent of maybe A levels here. So he actually is a full-time artist.
That's really cool.
Yeah. More on the advertising side, since that's usually more, you could usually find more jobs in the advertising realm, depending on the country.
Would you like to, at some point, pursue art as a career? I mean, I don't actually know what you do in your personal life at the moment, and I'm not going to ask because that's personal. But would you like to at some point?
I mean, no. It's always something I've done just for like fun, just for like to pass the time. It's one of the reasons why I never like ever say I'm doing commissions and the like. I'd rather, like, if someone was to ask me, I'd rather pass them on to another artist that's like wants to do that for a living.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe give them an art job.
Okay.
Yeah, but I haven't been asked too many times to like someone to pay me to make something.
But I think everybody would agree that your art is incredibly well drawn, and we're all big fans.
Yeah, thanks.
Here comes another question from Blade of Flame. What is the preferred software/devices that you like to use for your work? Any good drawing tables or tablets to recommend?
This program's called a Paint Tool site. It's a pretty old program, so it's I'm trying to remember. I think it's 32. It's a 32-bit program, so it maxes out at 4 gigs of RAM.
Okay, so
yeah.
not that intensive.
Yeah.
But still enough to get some incredible drawings. Like you can see here, the fully finished Chibi Nightmare, absolutely adorable, while simultaneously being absolutely terrifying. Moving on to one of my own questions. What's your least favorite art style? I'm gonna get a little bit controversial here. What's your least favorite art style?
Least favorite. It's not really a style, but I'm not too big on contemporary art unless there's a real significant meaning behind it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's even though the criticism is that, oh, I could do that, but I've seen enough contemporary artists to know that most of them do know the fundamentals of drawing, and if they needed to really properly draw something, they could draw a human figure or still life. But I find sometimes it's what the subject matter, what they plan to portray, like some installation, I'm usually not that impressed with it.
Wow, big words there from Carriacou.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I forget that most might not really be that too familiar with like the art terms and so forth. So if I need to simplify things more, let me know.
No, I think we're all following along quite well. I mean, we all somewhat have a base understanding of art, and even if we don't particularly like some art in some form, we come across it every day in our lives. Art is all around us, and some we appreciate and some we don't. Like personally, I really enjoy graffiti on the subway, like I'm in America, on the underground.
Mm-hmm.
And on like big walls, I honestly really love the artistry that graffiti embodies. But some people want to get it removed because they feel like it's an eyesore. That's why art is completely subjective.
It's cliche, but do you like the Banksy?
Banksy, I do. I like some of Banksy stuff because politically charged stuff does sometimes help some change happen, even if it is in the form of a piece of art on a wall. So I do enjoy some of Banksy's stuff, even though he is apparently an 84-year-old woman with numb fingers and is completely blind.
Yeah.
So, moving on to another question, unless we have another one from the chat. Are there any characters in fighting games or in general gaming that you like drawing the most? So we know that you're a SoulCalibur fan artist because, as we're seeing here, you're drawing Maxi and Nightmare, and it's what we see most of your drawings are about, especially in the SoulCalibur UK Discord. He's got some stuff posted on there. But is there anybody else that you prefer drawing, or any other kind of game that you prefer drawing?
Drawing from one would be don't do it as much now, but I used to do a lot of like Pokemon when I was younger.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like this, should be on the screen. This was something I did back in 2003. So it's not really something modern. So I used to like look at the cards and basically draw the designs from the cards.
Going back in history here, folks, there are the origins of Carriacou's fan art days.
And one I usually like to play JRPGs. I don't play as much now as I used to before. So one character is a Meredy from Tales of Symphonia. Not Symphonia, Eternia. That's a PS1 game.
Yeah, that's a classic PS1 game, a long time ago.
Okay, you played it.
Well, I didn't play the game, but I had friends who did, so I am somewhat familiar with the world and its characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so if there was a Pokemon that you had to draw for us right now, I'm not going to ask you to, but if there was a Pokemon that you had to draw right now, which Pokemon would it be?
Yeah, that would be easy. I'd probably draw what's his name? Voltorb.
Okay,
I can't even really remember how. Yeah, but no, that's a joke answer. My favorite was Cloyster.
I remember Cloyster, one of the original 151.
Yeah, the original. I'm from that like generation, but it's pretty complex to like draw unless you have a reference.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was my favorite.
Okay, Cloyster. Not an answer that I would have expected, but I can understand it. It's very detailed in its kind of curves and the clam part. So, I get it. It makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Another question from Eternal Dragon. What is your favorite piece of official SoulCalibur box art?
Oh, box art.
Journey back to the good old days of SoulCalibur, when grabs didn't track and sidesteps were a myth.
Yeah. I think I have. Oh,
Take your time. We're in no rush.
yeah. At this rate, I have quite a lot of references. I don't have.
You can't think of any off the top.
I don't have it right here, but I liked Hill's SC4, her original design. I'm trying to remember the artist, the name offhand, but if you look at how he rendered the metal, it's very detailed.
So SoulCalibur 4 original Hilda.
Also his SoulCalibur 5 artwork.
Yes, I remember this artwork.
It's like most of it's yeah, I don't have it like I just have Amy offhand, but if you look at like how you can see how the rendering on is here for the metal, I was really impressed with how he does that type of metal rendering.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you can also see, I mean, I don't know if the kind of brownish parts are part of rust or gold, but it really does feel like it's genuine metal rather than some plastic.
Yeah, but it's really the you would have to look at the SC4 Hill, that design.
I think I know which one you're talking about. I'll try and copy the image location. I'll post it in the chat. I think this is the one you're talking about. It's the one where she's kind of leant over on her spear. I believe this is the piece you're talking about. Put it in the Discord chat if you're able to see that as well.
Yeah, let me see. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. It is really good metalwork. You can really tell that it is completely separate to her kind of leather trousers. It's proper metal. It's got some really nice shading on it. It's got some really good lighting.
I'm not there yet, but with metal, the trick to drawing metal is you really need the contrast. From like, you could see right here the contrast of like it's one very bright one area, and then very dark the other area. Also, I just like looking at the artwork in general, just because the resolution is so high, you get the idea of really how they draw. Even though you don't see a tutorial, if you could really look up close at a picture, you could kind of work out exactly how they do things, how the artist does things.
I agree. SC4 Hilda is a pretty incredible piece of art, definitely. And moving on to another question. Is there a style that you'd like to learn or are currently learning?
Not in particular, but I'd like to get better at backgrounds. It's not something I do often. Yeah,
background. So into backgrounds in general, or any
yeah, just like landscapes in general.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you were to put these chibis in a background, you would like to work on your kind of your background art to make it look similar to these, or just background art for all sorts of styles?
Just background art for all sorts of styles.
Okay.
I find it like you realize that there's some like if you think of the Impressionists, some just did backgrounds, and it helped me realize that and not every artist isn't going to excel at everything, and that's okay. Yeah.
It's a very positive outlook on anything, to be honest. It's an understanding that you won't be good at everything, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Another question from Eternal Dragon. Favorite SoulCalibur stage or background?
That's kind of no one asks, but it's one of the main reasons why Talon's my favorite character is because of her stage from SoulCalibur 2.
Yes.
It really reminded me of like where I lived in the Caribbean, and like the island I grew up on, Barbados, it had a lot of windmills, not in the same way as not how they were in the game, but it's like one of the first times I really was like played a video game. I was like, hey, that's like kind of relatable.
Just had confirmation that Carriacou existed in the world of SoulCalibur 2. Wonderful.
Yeah, so that's my favorite stage.
It is a very beautiful stage. I mean, you've got, like you say, the windmills, but then you've also got the lush green backgrounds on the other side of the stage. It is a very, very pretty stage. Do we have any more questions from the chat before I move on with my questioning? Or if we just also get into a bit of a conversational piece?
Yeah,
Anybody have any questions?
No, most questions, not everything.
Not everything. No personal questions.
Depends on how like personal it is.
How personal, of course. So we know that you play Talim. What is it that drew you to Talim? Have you always been a Talim player in the SoulCalibur games? Regardless of liking her stages, have you always been drawn to Talim?
It's really only, believe it or not, it's only 2 that I played to any. It was only 2 that I owned because I owned a GameCube. So I play. It was what I played 2, and since the other one was on PS2, SoulCalibur 3, I didn't play it, and I never got a. I kind of stopped playing games after the GameCube and like PS2 era.
Yeah,
for a bit.
Understand that.
Yeah, so it's really SoulCalibur 2, SoulCalibur 6.
Which iteration of Talim do you prefer, SoulCalibur 2 or SoulCalibur 6?
The original one, not because it's necessarily a better, because I really never was that good at. I mainly played against the computer. Sometimes I went to the arcade to play, but yeah. Back then, even though they were like a few like tournament videos I found, I just button mashed and stuff.
Well, I think that's what a lot of us did when we started playing fighting games and started playing them competitively as well.
Yeah.
Mashing is how we learn. It's how we grow as people.
Yeah. And when I say the arcade, it's not, well, in Barbados, it was not like how it is in like Japan and America. It was on consoles, and it's always like arcades on a mall. It's like the console, so you pay, I can't remember, was it $2 for you play for 10 minutes? So I'd go after school to play.
And that's how some of us get started,
Yeah.
We start playing as kids after school, we make some friends, we join a scene, and then our life just gets sucked into the FGC, and then we can never get out again.
Yeah. You could say that's the only reason that I ever decided to like try to find the FGC again, is because I like kind of grew up playing like against other people and so forth. If it wasn't for that, I probably would have just like played the game for like maybe 2 months or so, then move on. But because I'm used to like playing against other people and like at least having some sort of conversation, was why I searched out for the Discord and all, like try to add people on my friends list. Yeah,
of course.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess Eternal Dragon's question moves nicely away from what you were saying, but also still kind of relatable. Is how did you discover the UK scene? So obviously when you were younger, there wasn't anything like Discord around. Like, same for me, Discord didn't exist. It was mostly MSN Messenger and MySpace. Facebook started becoming a thing and everybody jumped on that train, and Twitter started becoming a thing. I was kind of a late bloomer to Twitter, never really got on board with it. But in terms of the SoulCalibur UK scene and the UK FGC in general, how did you discover it?
Well, it started with once SoulCalibur came out, the only site I was going on was 8-Way Run. You know that one?
Okay.
And I saw a forum post, I think it was like in the region section by Buddy, showing the UK Discord. I mean, not the UK, the EU Discord. And from there I found the the UK Discord. So
Okay.
you could thank Buddy for like why I'm here.
There we go. Thank Baddy for Carriacou. And we will thank Baddy for Carriacou because you are a valued member and an my brain. And an incredibly talented artist. So moving on with one of my other questions. Which of the art styles in SoulCalibur do you prefer? So I know you've only played SoulCalibur 2 and 6, but I'm sure you've been around some streams where we've played SoulCalibur 4 and 5. Which of the art styles do you personally prefer?
They're all good in their own ways, but I'm not really that fan of it, but I'm a fan of 4 just because it seemed a bit more like they went for a darker theme to it. Yeah. So I would say SoulCalibur 4. Also because I never played it, but I saw the artwork and it had a lot more characters. So to me, it seemed like a more open. The world seemed more lived to me, lived in. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of understand that sentiment as well. You know, SoulCalibur 4 had some incredible stages. You know, the story made it feel like it was a completely alive world. The characters were vibrant and colourful in terms of the more colourful characters who wore brighter colours, like SCUK, for example. You also had Voldo, who had a really colourful palette as well. And obviously you had your darker colours, or darker characters that still had some pretty colourful palettes, like Nightmare and Siegfried. So, you know, I can definitely agree on that.
Although I never really watched tournaments of it, but because I wasn't really like checking FGC stuff then. Although I did watch for a bit, maybe a year or so, I watched SoulCalibur 5 like tournaments. Only because it was like Omega DR. I think that's, from what I understood, he was from like the Dominican Republic, and it was like I just wanted to see like, oh, it's someone from the Caribbean that's like good, like one of the top players in the fighting game.
He's a really good representative for that part of the world for sure.
Yeah, so that's kind of when I saw him, it's like, oh, someone from the Caribbean. Like that kind of got me into watching it, but it was very like I'd only watch maybe Evo or a major tournament. I wasn't really like following it that closely.
Well, speaking of tournaments, since SoulCalibur 6, you seem to have obviously become more engaged in the community. A lot of people know who you are. But do you watch a lot of tournaments now? Like, did you watch the offlines when they were around? Did you watch some of the onlines that were going on as well? Or were you, keeping relatively the same kind of exposure to SoulCalibur that you'd always had done?
Well, what it was, I saw back when this was like November when the game first came out. I can't remember the guy, but he was the one running the tournaments, the EU tournaments before Badi and M Phantasm. Is his name Builds or something like that? I can't remember. Like, he was hosting. Yeah, I saw somewhere. I think it was on either Reddit or Game FAQs, a post by him saying that this is like the EU tournament, like. And he had the line saying, oh, everyone can enter. But I checked the stream and I saw like 2 C ranks playing, and this is back in like a month after the game was out. So it's like, everyone can enter. I mean, I just see like some high ranks playing, so I just watched. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, although looking back now, they're probably like people my level playing that entered, they just weren't on stream. I forget that like it's only like maybe winners would be on stream.
Well, yeah, it's very easy to get disheartened when you see really good players playing on stream. If you are new to a specific FGC because you think, whoa, these play. I mean, you can either have one of two reactions, I suppose. One of them is, whoa, these people are really good, I'm never going to be this good, or whoa, these people are really good and they make me want to play the game. And luckily, we seem to have the latter for Carriacou. You know, he's still playing, he's still entering tournaments, and he's improving day by day. Plus, again, he's also a talented artist. As you can see here, the maxi is almost finished. We have him Heaven's Guarding Nightmare from Behind, which is obviously the perfect piece of art to portray with a maxi, especially with one of the best customs that has ever been created for any character in any SoulCalibur, and I'm sure the chat would agree.
Yeah.
Does the chat have any more questions? Because if not, I have a few more. We are so like I said before, if there are new people in the chat, we are aiming to go for about 45 minutes at max. But if we go over a little bit, it's not a problem. If we go under a little bit, it's not a problem. This is just a chill. Oh no, what do we say? There we go. Nerf HG. There we go. Nerf HG. Sounds good. I forgot what I was saying now. I was too enthralled by the loud speech. Yeah, any more questions from the chat? Any general questions? They don't need to be about art in general. I know Phoenix, she basically just outed herself by saying that she studied art history or something at university, so I'm sure she has some questions and just doesn't want to ask
Phoenix is really good. Everyone should check her out.
So Carriacou and Phoenix, two incredible artists in the SoulCalibur EU scene. I think we have Carriacou's Twitter link in the chat somewhere, but if Nashli would be so kind as to put it back in the chat, that would be great.
I need to check some of the designs on this.
Okay, do you have any screenshots of the actual in-game? Like as in like during the fight?
I think let me see. Oh.
Ah, there we go, yes.
Okay.
Look at that beautiful specimen on the right. Turquoise and pink, purple. Wonderful.
Yeah, with all these details, I'm not going to finish in time. But
no
you
problem.
get an idea of how I work.
Idea of the Carriacou process. Of course. Another question from Eternal Dragon. How long did it take to make the Edgemaster Championship belt image?
The thing is, usually when it comes to like pictures, I don't have a deadline on. I usually take forever to complete. So I did this. I would say it would take me usually 3 days to finish something like that. And when I say 3 days, I'm not talking like 8 hours working on it. I just mean I do the sketch one day, I paint a bit one day, and then I paint another the other day.
Okay.
Yeah, but for that one, I made a sketch because I was thinking of going to. If you don't know, let me see if I could find it. That was supposed to be for the mix-up.
Yes.
So I was contemplating going to the mix-up, so I did the sketch and I left it sitting as a sketch for quite some time before I got around to like finally completing it. You can see Leon in the background. Maybe someday.
Maybe someday, indeed. Look, we can all just hope that the coronavirus will go away and we can then have our offlines back. And we can have, our European events, VSF, Celtic Throwdown, the Mix-Up. We can get our offlines back in London, like Meltdown and Elf. That would be amazing. Okay, so any more questions from the chat? Do we have any?
Did I answer Flame's questions regarding? The program, Paint Tool SAI.
Yeah, Paint Tool SAI, indeed. Is there a piece of software that you would like to use more in terms of artwork, or is Paint Tool SAI or SAI really just what you enjoy using, is easy to use, and you don't really have a desire to use anything else?
Things where it's like once you have a tool and you tend to stick with it.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, when I listen to the interviews of several artists, I notice a lot of the digital artists, they don't really upgrade from the program they started with that often. Okay. It's one of those things where it's like, it's just how you use the tool that matters rather than having to buy the latest piece of software or iteration that comes out.
Sure.
Yeah, Yeah.
No, go on. Please
Yeah,
continue.
section is if you're like in a professional environment, you're really going to have to get to use. You won't really have a choice in which programs you're using. If they mandate that you use Photoshop, you're going to have to learn to use Photoshop. That's one thing with studio artists, that they have to like use whatever the company's using.
Yeah, of course. You have to make sure you're in line with the company. I mean, it makes sense. Another question from Eternal Dragon. Do you dabble with graphic design or using Photoshop?
I've tried it a few times, but never. I've always just rather prefer to draw things rather than mess around with like photos. I find that rather a different skill. I mean, it's related, but it's not quite the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even though it's just photos and not drawing, there's still like, to me, a high degree of skill needed to like really be proficient at it.
Phoenix Okami 2506 asks, what kind of tablet are you using? If you're drawing with a tablet, that is.
Yeah, I'm using the Wacom Intuos.
Would you be able to spell that for the chat just in case they didn't catch that?
Let me find a picture of it. It's
Wacom. WACOM.
It's one of the older models. I don't use. Yes, this tablet here.
There you go.
Yeah, for a while I used, when I first started, I used a cheaper tablet called a Wacom Babu. It's basically smaller than this, but doesn't have the buttons. And the pen is a bit cheaper. But I decided to upgrade maybe 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't quite know about drawing tablets at all, so what kind of features does that drawing tablet have that you would recommend it over other drawing tablets?
Well, if you're first starting out, I'd recommend just to get some more of the budget types. This cause it, as I told you like earlier before we started, I bought a tablet in 2011, but I never really drew that much, so sold it. So I'd recommend getting a cheaper one to begin. But what's good about this tablet is it has buttons here, and this circle allows you to rotate. So with the circle, I'm adjusting the brush size, and it also that might be a bit
okay,
confusing for the audience. Sorry, but yeah, basically it allows you to have a very much shortcuts instead of having to go to the options every single time.
Seems like a very intuitive piece of kit.
There you
go. So you've got the Wacom Intuos. Blade of Flame asks, have you ever considered animation?
No, because that's a very long and strenuous process to me. Well, I'm thinking of like 2D animation, 3D animations. To me, that's still very like, you have to be dedicated to it, in my opinion, just from like observing those who've done it.
Are there any animators that you enjoy? I don't know if we really have any FGC animators, but animators in general, some of the ones that you get in maybe higher production productions that you enjoy.
Not really. I mean, nothing against those that like, I see animations on YouTube and stuff, but I'm not really. It's impressive that like a single individual is able to like make an animated video, but I find animation is one of those things where to really make it shine, it needs to be in a studio environment where you have multiple animators working on something. rather than a single individual, because there's only so much that you could, unless you really spend a few years animating something. I find if you make like a 30-second video, it might be funny, but to me it's limited.
We've got a few more questions coming in. One from Lionide. How many hours generally do you put into a piece?
It's hard to say, because like on stuff like this, I don't spend that long. Like this, let me see, where was it? Like this sketch was basically like a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes, like 3-5 minutes. And if I was really just had time, I wasn't like streaming, it would take maybe an hour. I'd like paint a single character. So maybe like 3 hours a character, roughly. If I'm doing it in like this style. And let me see, but usually for longer, more detailed pieces, I takes me much longer.
Okay, so on average, a piece like this or a character would be maybe around 3 hours.
Yeah, but something like this, it usually takes me I spend at least a week on it.
That's very good. That's a piece I've seen a while ago. And it's very good.
Yeah, I always, if you don't know, I always sketch things on paper first. So this was a sketch I did for that talent picture, and then this was like the final result. So yeah, I mean, if I really wanted to, like, it takes me usually a week, and that's usually maybe spending like an hour or maybe an hour or two a day. And the weekend I usually paint more. This picture here, this one, yeah, this is my avatar. I spent like quite a few weeks on this one. After a while, I realized I was just like, I never actually completed it, because if you look at her hands, you'd realize that that's not actually like painted in.
Okay, so that's something I would never really notice.
Yeah, so I find I never really complete things. Yeah.
I mean, even the incomplete stuff is incredibly detailed, so I think maybe one day when you do complete a piece, it will be a masterpiece creation, and we'll sell it for hundreds of thousands of pounds, and we'll be able to open our own SoulCalibur UK offline event. It would be wonderful. So get on it, Carrie. So a couple more questions. One again from Eternal Dragon. Do you have any upcoming projects you're working on?
Yeah. I mean, I'm always drawing. I just don't really, if it's not like SoulCalibur related, I probably don't show it. I mean, like a lot of my original art I don't show. I like to like keep the self-promotion to a minimum, basically. So if it's not related to something like gaming related, I usually don't show. But I mean, I'm always like sketching, and I think most artists do the sketching and like have projects in mind to do. Like one thing, I had an idea to like draw all of my talent customs, but I've never like got around to completing all of them.
You have some really nice talent customs as well, so I think it'd be a treat to see some of those drawn. But moving on to our final question, because we are coming up to 45 minutes. What's the one thing in art that you absolutely cannot get right? Like your arch nemesis, and that again comes from Phoenix.
I would say like backgrounds. To me, I never really do that good of a job on backgrounds. I mean, like if you look at this, it's not. I wouldn't be impressed if I saw another artist of this. I'd be thinking in my head, that's not that good. But
I mean, to me, it looks great because I'm a terrible artist. But I don't know. To a trained eye, it may not look that good. But I would disagree.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a really good background, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I mean, I try not to force myself. Like, as I said, not every artist is going to be like gravitate to every single type of artwork. So, yeah.
Of course. Well, Phoenix says that backgrounds are the worst as well. So there you go. You
Yeah.
have one thing in common. Maybe one day you will collaborate on a piece, and that will be the crowning jewel of the SoulCalibur EU artists. SoulCalibur EU art.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, that is all we have time for today. We are now at 46 minutes, so we just managed to go a couple of minutes over because I have to do my intro, etc., etc. Thank you very much to Carriacou for joining. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you everybody for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure hosting for you, and I hope that we can do this again. If you have any feedback for us, please do put it in the SoulCalibur UK Discord or tweet it out to us. Definitely don't do the thing that Carrie's putting on the screen right now, because it's just going to make Maxi Mains cry. Thank you very much to Nashley for streaming this, because it's being done from his PC. Is there anything you'd like to say, Carriacou? Anything you'd like to plug at the end?
Thanks for like having me on, because like I never would have thought, I never asked, but I never would have thought people would want to like see me like try to draw. So thanks everyone that like came in the chat, even if it's just to learn. And I hope to see like some other artists. They need to be have the light shown on them as well.
Oh, of course, I have some plans for SoulCalibur artists, don't you worry. This is just the first of many SoulCalibur UK streams with which we have a SoulCalibur artist come on and draw something on stream, which is now the official name of this series. Once again, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you to Carrie, thank you to Nash, thank you to the SoulCalibur community. Have a good day, stay safe, and we'll see you soon.